Hello, my name is David Tizzard, Asia Society Korea's regular contributor. I'm a professor of Korean Studies, and I lecture here at Seoul Women's University and Hanyang University. Today, I'll be giving you an overview of how the 2022 presidential election in South Korea will take place. The Republic of Korea was founded in 1948. However, decades of military rule meant that democracy was not always utilised when choosing the nation's leaders. Since 1987, the President of South Korea has been elected directly by the public in a single-round plurality vote. This means it's using the first-past-the-post simple plurality system. This year will mark the 8th presidential election since democratization. Under the South Korean constitution, the president is restricted to a single 5-year term in office. This means that the incumbent president, Moon Jae-in of the Democratic Party, is ineligible to run for a second term. Many candidates have called on changing this system to a 4-year term with possible re-election. That, however, has not come into effect yet. In Korea, people cast their vote for the candidate of their choice. The candidate who receives the most votes wins. This means that even if the top candidate gets less than 50% of the vote, which can often happen when there are two popular candidates, the one with the most votes wins. In South Korea's last presidential election, held in 2017, voter turnout was 77.2%. This was the highest it had been since 1987. Some observers have noted that the current presidential campaign is going down as the most negative campaign in South Korea's recent history. Many of the candidates have been described as engaging in mudslinging. What this will do to the voter turnout, however, this year remains to be seen. The election campaign in South Korea is just 23 days. This very short election campaign period has been implemented to try to prevent excessive financial spending on these procedures. However, it also works against new candidates who are not well known to the public. It therefore sometimes serves to reinforce the power of the established parties. This year, 14 candidates have signed up thus far since the official registration opened on Sunday, 17th of February. There are, however, 4 main candidates, and if you want to know more about them, I suggest that you have a look at our other Asia Society Korea's video that I've made on the 4 candidates, who they are, where they're from, and what policies they stand for. In terms of voting, polling places in South Korea are usually, but not exclusively, located in or around schools. During an absentee or early voting period, voters can vote at any polling place in the country. On election day, however, voters may only vote at the designated polling places, and this must be done in their registered constituency. Korean voters mark paper ballots with a rubber stamp using red ink. Many then take a photo of a red stamp on their hand as proof that they have voted. They then upload these to social media to try to spread awareness of democracy and show other members of the country that they are playing their part. Voters are allowed to take photos and selfies anywhere outside the polling booths, and they are also free to express the candidate of their choice. However, snapping photos of the actual ballot paper remains strictly prohibited. Here, just for your information, is a graph of the polling after the nominees were announced in November 2021. You will notice the difference in support between the 2 main parties and those below. Many argue that in South Korea, regionalism is strongly entrenched and plays a very important role in politics, particularly presidential elections. Some Koreans believe, therefore, that addressing regionalism is a precondition for the further political development of the country. Historical and traditional factors have frequently been mentioned as sources of this regionalism. Some will go back thousands of years to try to explain it. Others point to more recent political developments in the 1960s. Age matters. This is the first time that 18-year-olds will be able to vote in a presidential election in South Korea. In 2019, the National Assembly passed an electoral reform bill lowering the voting age from 19 to 18. This means that this year, in 2022, high school students are eligible to vote and choose their president. The number of 18-year-old eligible voters in South Korea is approximately 540,000. This makes up about 1% of the total eligible voters in the country, of around 44 million. The election is taking place during the COVID-19 pandemic. This brings with it many challenges. In February 2022, the South Korean Parliament approved plans to provide time for COVID-19 patients to vote during the March 9th presidential election. Voters in quarantine will be allowed to visit polling stations and cast ballots after the regular voting closes at 6 p.m. It has not yet been decided whether they will use the same polling stations as the other voters, or because of concerns over COVID-19 pandemic, they will use different polling stations. However, Parliament is making sure that everybody has the opportunity to vote. The current polls in South Korea for the 2022 presidential election are very close, and that means every vote counts, including those overseas. There are approximately 2.14 million overseas Koreans. This accounts for about 5% of the nation's total population. Democracy in South Korea is thriving. It has been hard fought. From the years of military authoritarian rule, power has been wrested from that, and the people have claimed it as their own. Democracy is seen as a very powerful thing. And we hope that in South Korea, people continue to vote, to exercise their choice and make the most of the freedoms that they have given themselves. We don't know what will happen in the 2022 South Korean election, but it promises to be interesting. And we hope that South Korea will continue to succeed as it has done thus far. I've been David Tizzard for Asia Society Korea, and please stay tuned for more videos and information about the political and cultural situation in South Korea. Thank you.